Hey.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey.
We are live. There you go. So let me introduce everybody real quick if you haven't watched the show. This is Sunday Evening Live on Musings, Rants, and Guitars. I am Joey. I am here in the upper right corner fighting to that side. To that side. That's Len over there. Okay, that'll be in the upper left. In the bottom left is Tommy. And our special guest right below me is Steve Lynch from Autograph and Network 23.
Right.
Thanks, Steve, so much for coming on.
It's an honor.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it really is an honor. I got to say one thing. I did tell the other guys this. Steve called me just before we're getting ready to go on, making sure we have to do this whole, getting him a key so he can log into us. So I had a long day today, so I go in and I jump in the shower. I get out of the shower and my phone's ringing, and I'm like, I don't recognize the number. I'm like, oh crap! Pick up the phone, drop the towel. Hi, Steve. How you doing? There I am, standing naked with Steve Lynch on the phone. Good thing it wasn't a video call. He would not have been impressed.
Who would have called this off?
Yeah, it would have been very embarrassing. Anyway, Steve, thanks so much for coming on to the show. Really,
to be on, guys.
It's an honor.
Definitely.
yeah, it really is an honor. What a, we go blow smoke up your ass. You're a
through
great
the whole
guitar
thing.
player. Yeah,
Great.
Thanks. For those who don't know Steve, big star for us. We are huge guitar player guys. We love guitar. We wish we could play as good as that. Steve is an instructor with RH Videos. You're an instructor at Musicians Institute, right? Just an amazing player,
Yeah, RH Videos and
Guitar Solo of the Year, 1985. That's no small feat, man.
Yeah.
There were some players in those years, man.
I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, we watched that video.
Simply amazing. I mean, your touch, and even me shoving those VHS tapes into the tape deck, trying to figure that stuff out. Yeah, so just trying to get that anything happening myself. So it's amazing to have you on and speak about some of these things we're going to talk about today. So thank you.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you for the introduction.
And we have to say thanks for Len for reaching out to Steve to get him on the show. So thanks, Len. Great job.
I haven't seen him in like over 30 years, and he still looks the same. How does he do it?
Yeah, right. So,
deal with the devil.
Yeah. How did you meet Steve, Len?
Well, they were on tour for Van Halen, the opening act on their 1984 tour.
Yeah.
And, being friends with Rudy and members of the crew, we were going to all the shows. And what I thought was kind of weird was at that time, Van Halen never really had a legitimate opening act. They always had somebody that it was just like you didn't care who was playing.
Right.
And all of a sudden,
they called them the T-shirt band because that band was when everybody was out buying their merchandise.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Exactly.
Two people watching going, wow, look at that.
Yeah. And so, I go and these guys are hitting the stage and I'm thinking like, but it's gotta be a farce or something. And then all of a sudden they just started playing these songs and he's ripping on the guitar. And I was just like, holy shit, who are these guys? And I just thought automatically that, you guys were something special for them to have you guys on the bill with them doing that almost that whole tour.
Yeah. I mean, we were out for 5 or 6 months with them until RCA, told us to quit the tour and come back and record, because we didn't have a record deal when we went out with them. That was just one of those things where,
wow,
we weren't even a band. We didn't have a name for the band. We just had been in the studio and did a demo. We were all playing in different bands that were signed at the time, actually.
Yeah.
And so Kenny Richards, our drummer, was jogging every day.
Rest in peace.
Morning every day with David Lee Roth, and David asked him, what he was doing, and Kenny was playing in a group called The Coup on A&M Records, and I was actually, me and the keyboard player were actually playing on Dreamland Records with Holly Penfield. The singer was playing, in a group called Silver Condor with Earl Slick on Columbia Records.
Right.
And Randy Rand, our bass player, was playing with Lita Ford. So we all had kind of paid gigs, but Kenny played him this demo of what Autograph, but we didn't even have a name then. And we did a 5-song demo with Andy Johns in the studio. He had some pre-recording time.
Wow.
Andy Johns, Glenn Johns, they're from the Trident School of Music in London, and they had worked with the Stones, John Lennon, and just pretty much everybody, Led Zeppelin and all that. But Andy was a friend of ours, and he said, "Let's go into the studio and cut this demo real quick." Just did it on a weekend, and when Kenny played it for David said, "You guys want to open up for us?" On the 1980 tour, and Kenny said, "Well, yeah. Let me ask them first, because we all had gigs that we were in already, and but we had all finished up the recording and everything with these other bands, and so we had some time. And we thought, yeah, let's go out with them for a few months. We'll write a couple more songs and go out and open for them. This would be a great experience." Well, next thing you know is we're getting all these offers, backstage from these record labels. And we picked out a name when we were driving from LA to Jacksonville, Florida, straight across the 10 all the way. And we got there, and we played in front of 18,000 people. And we picked out a name right before we went on stage. So basically,
wow.
They didn't have anything to put on the marquee. But then we got just all these offers from these different record labels, and RCA offered us the best one, which was a pretty good chunk down and 100% keeping 100% of our publishing, which had never happened with RCA or most any other company before. Keep 100% of your publishing. And we went, yeah, we're going with you guys.
Nice, yeah. Very good.
Very
like
good.
I said, RCA, just they would definitely have kept everything. So. Good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They were known for that. But we had like A&M and Epic and Geffen and Warner Brothers and everything, bidding for us. And so they knew that they were going to have to offer us a pretty good deal to get us signed.
And this all went down at the Garden when you guys were there, right? You found the Garden.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we signed backstage at Madison Square Gardens. Yeah. That's basically where we signed the deal. And so then we stayed out with Van Halen for a few more months after that, and then they just said, "Okay, guys, time to go home."
It's like, how do you go home from something like that?
Wow,
man! I tell you, some of the many memories I have has to be the girls, and the women all over the place. I remember there was a night, it was a Sunday night in Ohio, and it was snowing out. And we went to the hotel where you guys were staying, and there was nothing but women running around. You had the guitar in your hand. Kenny was dressed up like a sheik or something, burning candles, and it was just like, I just said, "Yeah, this is something I want to do with my life."
So, what I'm going to do is I'll put on just a few minutes of Turn Up the Radio this way. If you're not sure who Steve Lynch is, you really should know.
Responsible for such an iconic riff in rock and roll history.
Absolutely. So
piece of history, definitely.
Yeah. So let me pop it on real quick.
Turn up the radio. I need the music. Give me some more. Turn up the radio.
So we can talk over this at the same time. You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So yeah, absolutely. Fantastic stuff, man. This was such an iconic song. It was ridiculous.
I mean,
and,
it's
here
like
you go. Here's the man ripping the guitar solo over here.
It's just like one of those songs that when you hear the guitar starting up. I mean, what do? You turn up the radio, and it's just like one of those songs where it's like you're gearing up for Friday night, Saturday night. You got money in your pocket. You got your plans already made. And you're in the car and you got that song going. And like this was, people must be saying, why didn't I think of that song to write? I mean, it's like so in front of you, but I'm glad you did it, because every time we all hear it, and even the bands and the bars around our area still play that song, it's just a fist bumper.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just one of those. It just has that kind of a groove. And the funny thing is RCA didn't want us to put it on the album. They didn't think it was strong enough. Yeah, and we told them, we said, hey, it's called Turn Up the Radio. What do you think radio stations are going to want to do with this? Is turn up the radio, and they wanted the first single to be a song called "Send Her to Me," and so we argued with them, and they said no, and so we recorded it anyway because we just thought this is definitely going to be our strongest song. Yeah. And so then when they heard the recording, the polished recording of it, then they went, "Oh yeah, let's release that." And then later on, they took all the credit, for saying that was their choice to be the first.
Oh, that's bullshit.
Yeah, they're A&R guys going, yeah, told you.
Yeah, that was my idea.
Very cool.
That's so
Very cool.
good.
And it really is for a song that was, obviously the time, metal was huge,
Yes.
That solo is really, really a tasty damn solo, man.
Yeah.
Hats off
Thank
to you.
you.
It was, wow.
When you listen to the entire...
A lot of people, thank you for that. I spent 5 8-hour days working on that solo.
Wow.
Because I kept on coming up with different solos, and I just thought, it's not coming in right, or then I came up with the intro part, and I thought, oh, that's cool. I like sliding up and then playing half step below, sliding up, playing a whole step below, and I was just climbing up the A Mixolydian mode, and I thought, oh, that sounds cool. Okay, so and then I would spend time trying to do the answering part to the question that I just asked on guitar. So I was just coming up with these ideas, and I was just throwing them away. And I thought, this song's going to get a lot of airplay, so I've got to come up with something unique. And I just kept on working and working and working. And I eventually came up with the solo that I used, and I was satisfied with it. And then I went and doubled it in the studio. A lot of people don't know that I actually doubled all my rhythm parts, sometimes tripled, and I doubled all of my solos.
Really?
But the thing is when you use your vibrato arm and they're not quite in pitch, it's like that chiropractic playing where it kind of puts everybody's spine out of adjustment for a little bit, and then you come back in and they're going, oh, that feels better. But another thing that we did was we ran one of the tape machines. It was 2 Studer 24 tracks running 2-inch amp tape, and we would slow it down to 99%. Okay. So then when and that would be one channel, okay, and then on the second machine we'd run it at 101%. So one was a little bit slow and one was a little bit fast. But when you put them together, they're not exactly in pitch. But man, they sound so full. It gives it this thickness, and that's why I did all my solos. I always did it 1 to 99, 1 at 1 or 1 at 1%, and we pad them like 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And so it worked out really cool that way.
Wow,
fantastic, man.
That's cool. That's a cool story.
Yeah,
it was just
beautiful.
One of those things, when you're in the studio like that, you got. You have all these different things to just mess around with. And I'm an analog guy. I grew up with the Tridents and the SSL boards and everything and all the outboard gear, which you can now do at home in your studio. But, that's the way I always recorded. So it was with analog.
Yeah. I was the old tape guy too. So I've been around. I'm not 25 anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So, I just did some tape work too over when I did the there's a studio on Long Island that still has the Studer, the SSL and everything. Yeah, Jimmy's, and I tracked my stuff on that. They trumped everything to Pro Tools, but it was amazing to hear the presence of that equipment. To have it. He's got a reverb tank that looks like R2D2 that's ancient. It's actually really cool too. And and another guy who
we're talking about is Sabella Studios. I don't know if you're familiar.
He's
a big studio here on Long Island. He had some good success there. Yeah.
But he let me play a 100-watt Marshall wide open without a problem. He's like, oh yeah, let's just plug right in, and just played like that with nothing but a cord, a cable.
And he probably mic'd it with a with the 58, with the Sennheiser 421,
Yep.
and with the piezo in the room too.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
That
Right,
was,
and
that was
I
the
think-
way everybody did
And I think you wanted a mic, in the control room with me too, just because, in case you make a grunt or something, maybe we'll use that too. I'm like, okay, Jim.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's the way I recorded too. Is I was always in the control room.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to hear what it was actually going to sound like
Right.
coming through the
Coming out.
speakers. When
Right.
you're in the room itself, you can kind of get a little bit lost, as to
Yeah.
where the rhythm track was going and everything. Where where when you're in the control room, you have a lot more adjustments to do to make the volume sound right when you're playing the back.
Yeah, and it's great to work like that. But leads into the fact you were working like that in the studio. I mean, where did you start? I mean, what were your early influences? I mean, and what got you from there to GIT to double tracking at 99 and 101?
Well, I started out playing in 1968, and I started playing bass because there was already another kid on the street that had a guitar. So he says, we need
It was a
a
good
bass
move to
player,
switch.
and I really wanted to play guitar though. And so I got a bass, a Lyle bass, I don't know if you remember them, but and a little Supro amplifier. And so we started jamming and working out songs. And but then anyway, I moved away and I switched over to guitar. I mean, he died. We still had the band going, but he died. So and his name was Jerry Hendrix, and I was a big Jimi Hendrix fan. So I thought, this is the time I'm going to switch over to guitar now. And so I did.
Wow.
And I just became addicted to it. I could not stop. And then September 18th, 1970, that's when, I really got serious and I went and got a Stratocaster. And for $200, and it's just like 1962 Strat, mint condition. But anyway, my dad found out that I wasn't going to school, that I was sneaking over to my friend's house, Stefan, and we were jamming all day, and I only went to 51 days of the 8th grade. So he said, well, that's fine, but you can't live here if you're not going to school. I'm not going to support you. And so I said, can I borrow the tent? And he had this big 10-man, camping tent. And he said, you can have it, because we haven't used that for years now. And so I moved the tent over to this friend of mine's house, and he had this big lot where it's just full of sticker bushes, blackberry bushes, and he said, you can use that lot. And so I took a machete and I cleared out a path, from his place where his house was at. And it's just him and his mom lived there. And she said, yeah, you can use that. So, and then I cleaned out an area, for the tent to set up. And it worked out great. You couldn't see the tent from the road. And then I ran out a big extension cord. And so I had heat, I had power from my amplifier, and I had a lantern, or a lamp in there. And so that's basically all I needed. And I had my Stratocaster, and nobody could see anything was back there. So it was very private. And I was 15 years old, and I never went back to school, and I just played guitar. And so
Wow.
that's how it all started.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great story. That oh, we got nothing on that.
Yeah.
And it was great. I had a job at a stereo shop where they were paying me $1.25 an hour. I didn't have rent or power or anything to play. I just had to buy food, basically. And I rode my bicycle to work every day, and I worked there for 2.5 years. So it worked out really cool.
Awesome. So
The
who's
only bummer part was during the winter time, we had a really bad snow season that year. And I had to set my clock for like every 2 hours, the alarm, to get out and start shoveling off the snow on top of the tent. Otherwise, it starts caving in. And all the spiders from the whole, sticker bush patch there, they all moved in with me. And I hate spiders. So,
Yeah, you and me both, man.
yeah.
Wow. So, all right. So Hendrix was a huge influence on you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who else?
After Hendrix, then I really started getting into listening to Jeff Beck. And what I mean by listening to him is I'd sit down there and wear out places on the record. try to figure out everything that they're doing, obviously. And then I got into Jimmy Page, especially the first album, you know, that he was doing, you know, all the great songs on there. And then into the second one, too. I learned all the songs on there and the solos and everything. And then those were my main guys. And David Gilmour, he was also in that mix. But, and, you know, I was playing in top 40 bands all around the Seattle area. This was all in Seattle. And so we were touring up in British Columbia, Montana, Idaho, Oregon, Northern California. So we were always busy, you know, because we were a pretty popular cover band up in the area at that time. And so we were always touring. And I was taking lessons from this guy, Don Mock, in West Seattle Music. And I called up there. I was in Montana. I was calling up to reserve some lessons because I come back into town. And they said, he's not here anymore. I said, what? Where is he? He just went down to open up some new school, the Guitar Institute of Technology down in Hollywood. And I said, are you serious? You know, and I said, yeah. So I actually called up information and I got the number. 213-462-1385. I still memorized it.
Yeah.
You know, and I called up the number and I actually got him on the phone. And he said, Steve, quit your band, sell your equipment, and get your ass down here. And 3 months later, I was there.
Yeah. Wow. What year was that?
Wow.
Yeah. And he said, you don't have to take the entrance test or anything because I already knew my theory through him. You know, So he said, you don't have to worry about that. Just come down and you're good to go. And the whole school for the whole year was $2,300.
Wow. Yeah.
Now
so
like,
what year was that, Steve?
Yeah.
What year was that? Do you remember?
That was, I moved down there at the end of 77, but I started the school in March 20th of 1998. 1978, I mean. Sorry.
Okay, yeah.
And then what happened was, you were asking me, Tommy, like, how did I get to that point?
Yeah.
I started really, you know, when I was in Seattle, there was a guy up there named Steve Buffington that was doing some of the two-handed stuff, and I got him to show me a couple of things. He was a really good guitar player. He was like a Jeff Beck aficionado, you know, and so I learned some stuff from him, and I saw Harvey Mandel, who was up with John Mayall and the Blues Breakers. He was doing some stuff with it, and I just went, wow, that's really cool. So I started figuring out stuff with it, and this was probably back in 73, 74, and then when I started the Guitar Institute, just like right after I started, you know, attending it, there was this guy, Emmett Chapman, that did a clinic at the school. And
Chapman
he's
stick.
the inventor of the Chapman stick.
Yeah.
Okay, where you play with two different hands. You know, your right hand plays the higher string, which plays the melodies and the solos. And your left hand, like on piano, it comps the bass lines in the different chords.
Yeah.
And so what I did was, you know, I just went, wow, this is incredible. He mentioned during the clinic at the beginning, he said, I went so far in guitar, I had to make this instrument, you know, to accompany me better so that I could play both the parts just like on a piano. So I asked him after the clinic, I said, so what were you doing on guitar that you got to that point? And he just showed me a couple of things like a pentatonic thing where he would use one position of the pentatonic and then another position of the pentatonic and just went, I just went, that's cool.
Right. Okay.
So everything I wrote down, everything that I was learning as far as triads, arpeggios, all the scales, all the modes and everything, I started to write them out so you can play them two-handed. And interval skips and everything. So I started doing that. And, you know, by the time it came to the end of the year, I had a stack of papers like that. And when I played at the graduation ceremony, nobody had seen me play before. I stayed out of the whole, you know, the whole performance classes and all that because I just wanted to keep working on my stuff. And they said, Howard Roberts, who had written the curriculum for the school, he said after I got done playing, he said, man, you should write a book on that. And I said, look I've got like 400 pages written already. So him and Tommy Tedesco took me to their publisher. And within, I brought my guitar in and I showed him the papers, how I wrote it down so you can read it with, you know, circles for your left hand, squares to pull off to your left hand, circles with your right hand, squares to pull off with your left hand, and then hammer-ons with your your left hand would be in triangles. And they got it right away because it was just all symbols like that. And then I showed them how to read it, and then I played some stuff out of it. And the publisher, within 10 minutes, he says, "You got a deal." And so we signed a deal, and a few months later, I had my first book out, and that was in 1979.
Wow, really
that's,
cool.
That's amazing. You answered actually really the real gist of my question. I really wanted to hear, like you said, just the transition from the tent to there. That's amazing. I mean, you had dove in deep into GIT at that point, right? I mean, and the influences. I mean, just to see, I've seen someone play the Chapman stick up close, and I was having a hard time even getting my head around it because it was this beautiful thing. And for you to take that, write it all out, Tommy Tedesco and Howard Roberts, you're sitting down with them. That's
that's the cool thing about going to the Guitar Institute. At that time, there were all these great jazz guys, Ron Eschke, Les Wise, and just all these, Pat Martino would come and visit, Pat Metheny would come and visit, and all these great jazz guys. And I would learn as many things from them as I possibly could. I was even sitting down transcribing John Coltrane, and I got into transcribing.
That's what I'm working on now.
Jean-Luc Ponty on the violin, Mr. Pentatonic on violin, which was incredible. That's when I was listening to Alan Holdsworth on the album Jean-Luc Ponty with the Enigmatic Ocean one, and then he was also playing in a group with Bill Bruford and Tony Levin called UK. So it was like a super group, like a Genesis type of group.
Right.
And so I really got into Alan Holdsworth at that point. And that was the last guitar player that I really listened to, that was an influence on me.
Wow.
I mean, just to be immersed in that is amazing. I mean, it's one thing to play the cover circuit like you were doing, where you were killing it, right? You were going out there, you're playing, and you're seeing other guys, and everybody's doing the same thing. But then you absolutely went to a level above level, seeing the people you saw at GIT and yourself, right? To be able to keep up and excel. Amazing.
Well, you see these jazz guys, and they're so damn good. You look at like the regular rock players out there, and you go, yeah, they're great. But most rock players that really know, they watch these jazz guys and they want to put their guitar away. They just go, and so I got a lot of the phrasing ideas from actually jazz saxophone and violin, and it was just and being around all these jazz guys. I was the only guy in the school because it was 1978 at that time. I had a solid body guitar. Nobody else did. I had a black leather jacket.
You were the only rock guy.
Pants and platform shoes and a shag haircut. And they all looked at me like I was an alien. Like, what are you doing here? But they all really got to respect me because they knew that I was working on all these different ideas and everything, and taking all these jazz ideas and completely twisting them around.
Oh, absolutely.
Incorporating them into my playing.
And creating your own thing. I mean, absolutely. That's what it comes down to is you are unique, and you took those influences and did all that, and you developed to be a unique player. Like, as we said, before this, you stopped at Alan Holdsworth because you just didn't want to be influenced by anybody else. Now is my time to be me and not, not become the next John Coltrane in guitar. I'm going to be, Steve Lynch in guitar. Amazing. Yeah. Great story, sir.
But you take a little bit of ideas from all these different jazz players, and it's just their phrasing, the way that they do things, and then you add in the bends and the vibrato arm and everything, and you've got something that's an acid trip.
Right.
Right.
Right. I mean, you're bringing, you'll bring the bar into it. They're not doing that. I mean, maybe, and I can't even think of anybody even having a Bigsby, any of those guys. I mean, they're all big hollow body and it just amazing play. But, slurring into notes the way they do is kind of their bar thing, but, not like that. You take it to the rock direction, where most of us, went too far with the bar at some points, but, you did, you took it. Right? Yeah, well, and then today, but but you took it and really musically excelled. So
Well, thank you. I I knew that, you know, when I moved down to LA, there was 50,000 guitar players that were just in local 47, the union down there.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, 50,000, are you kidding me? But then they said at GIT, they said, no, there's like another 500,000 that aren't in the union. And I went, okay, there's over 500,000 guitar players just in LA, you know? So
yeah, I did LA myself. You couldn't throw a rock without hitting a guitar player.
No,
I was in LA from
exactly.
87 to 95. So it was, rough time.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was there from 77 to 92.
Yeah.
So yeah.
We probably ended up at the same party, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Probably. So how about guys currently? Who do you see that you're like, wow, this guy can actually play? I mean, because we talked real briefly, like I'm still looking at you know, you as a guitar player, you know, guys, you know, around our age, you know, my guitar heroes, you know, like, so who's playing now that you see, Steve?
Well, I really like what Guthrie Govan is doing, and he just did some recording not very long ago. It was with Porcupine Tree, which is actually, you know, one of my favorite bands, actually, because they're so unique, they're so progressive, and there's no confines that they write in. They write whatever they feel, and they just kind of go for it. And I really appreciate that, because that's kind of the way I'm looking at my writing right now. Is I don't want to, you know, a song may not even sound like a structured song. It's just wherever I want to go with it, and I have that freedom now. And so I really got into them, and then they added him on, and I thought, God, he does some great work on this. Some of the most unique work that he does is with the fretless guitar. This guitar is made in France, and he's got some demos up there, Guthrie Govan, and he shows all this fretless stuff that makes it sound like, you know, it's just slide guitar, but way out there. You can do anything with it. So much more than you can just do with a you know, a regular slide on your finger. And so I wanted to get one of these, but I wanted to incorporate, you know, two-handed stuff and just see what I could come up with, you know. It takes a little bit of time, because you don't have frets, you know, you just have a mark there, and you have to be right on that mark, otherwise you're sharp or flat.
Yeah.
You know, and you got to give it the right. You can't bend up or down, so you have to give it vibrato like you would on a violin, fretless again, or a cello. So you know, it's a learning curve, but I think you know, I'd be able to come up with some really cool stuff. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well.
You know, the one thing, and you know, we talk about this in music. It's the one thing that you can do and always get better at. You know, it's not like you're, you know, I don't know, let's lack of a better term, you're a computer programmer. You know, you work on that and you do things, or but in music, you know, you're 80 years old and you're like, you know, I could still get better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So always try new things, you know, and that's the thing, is to challenge yourself to come up with different, unique things that you've never done before. And if you just keep repeating like the same style, or like if you listen to the Autograph stuff, the early Autograph, and then you go into what I did in like 5 years later in 1994, 95 with Network 23, it's completely different from what I was doing with Autograph. And I wrote all that material, you know, and then I co-wrote some of it with the singer, the lyrics and the melody lines and stuff like that. But basically, I wrote everything and I played everything but the drums. Chris Frazier came in and played drums on it, who used to be with Steve Vai, and now he's been with Foreigner for like the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Great drummer. And then Mike Mangini, who's with Dream Theater, he played on a couple of this as well. But it was so much fun for me to go in to the studio with my rough demo tapes and then bring it all to life, you know, just working with an engineer in there, because I was basically producing and arranging it and playing most of the instruments on it. So it was a lot of work, but it was it was challenging, but it was very rewarding at the end of it. And so that's what I'm doing now, is I'm just like the other night, I was just sitting here listening to all these songs I have, even old cassette tapes, you know what I mean, of these ideas that I would just lay down, and songs that I put on my phone real quick, and micro cassettes and all that kind of stuff. And I just was listening to all this stuff, and I just went, God, I got to finish this stuff and put it out there. I already have a couple that are pretty much done, recording wise and everything. But there's other ones that you forget about it. If you don't put it down, as soon as you hear it, it's gone.
Oh yeah, and
you
know what? You can spend 2 hours sitting there going, "Oh man, this is great. This is great. Oh man, this is so good." And you take you go to the bathroom and you go to have a peanut butter sandwich. You come back and you go,
"Don't go to the bathroom. Don't get a sandwich."
No, man.
And don't watch an episode of Friends either.
Do nothing. Do nothing.
Yeah.
Stop. Yeah, explode. Just record it. Get it recorded.
Yeah.
So we have 2 quick shout-outs on the top chat on YouTube right now.
Cool.
One of our friends, Ed Shin, he says hi every week. He wanted to say he was a big fan. The second one is a guy who says he knows you, Steve. He said he studied under you, Kevin Pike. Does that name sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Pike. Okay, I'm going to show you something here.
Let me bring you up in a video then. Yeah.
We came up with this design, the string muter thing here.
Okay.
And that's Kevin Pike that helped me out with this. He was working at this 3D printing laboratory. And so he helped me out with this. And so that's my little string muter here. And I plan on putting those out because it's one of those things where you can tighten the amount, the width of the neck and everything. And so if you don't need that much tightness on it, then you can adjust it to whichever you need to. And so he kept on bringing him back into the next lesson. Well, how's this one? And I'd say, well, we need to adjust it more, and so he'd take it back to the shop, and then you bring it in the next week and say, okay, yeah, that's it. We finally got it right, so. Yeah. Hi, Kevin. Kevin's a great player himself, man. He's got a lot of this two-headed stuff down in the room where I teach at, and we just go, just having a good time. And most of the time, in lessons, I end up talking about just the philosophy of music, and we talked a lot about that. And I like to teach people how to approach everything from a different angle. I say, don't listen to what's already happened out there among guitar players, okay, in that genre of music that you want to be doing. I say, listen to jazz guys, listen to classical guys, because it's going to influence you in a completely different direction. But if you just listen to the standard guys that are out there right now, then you're just going to be a replica of that, and you're not going to be original. And the most important thing is to sound original, to have a really unique, to develop your sound. And I explained that to them. You don't have to be just a brilliant, speed picker or sweeper or anything like that, just because there's already millions of those guys out there already. Okay. The main thing is creating your own sound and get to know your chord theory really well, so that you know how to write cool sounding songs with unique chords in them and everything.
Sure.
Yeah, and because who makes the most money? It's the songwriters. So if you want to make a living at this, write some songs.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, see, that's the one thing I noticed about you, Steve, whether it was an Autograph or Network 23, is no matter what style you're playing, it still sounds like you. You're probably one of the only few guys that actually has a signature sound. Where you go, okay, that's Steve Lynch, because he's doing the way he's playing and the tone and the sound of everything. So that's a major accomplishment.
It's just I think Steve Vai has that. I think that Eddie
There's a handful of people.
That, obviously. I think that Alan Holdsworth had that. Jeff Beck, even though Jeff Beck, morphed into a bunch of different things, I can still tell by just his feel, his vibrato, and his bending. And
you can tell.
That's Jeff Beck.
Definitely just by the touch and stuff. There's that whatever's in him that comes out is always him, and it can be anything. It can be anything you play, even when he plays. I mean, he does a pretty good Les Paul when he does Les Paul, but it's still Jeff Beck doing it. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So.
Okay. We're still here.
I'm sure. that go black?
Yeah, they still heard us. It went.
Rain on Me. That was from Network 23.
Okay, Rain Down on Me.
Yes. So we had a little issue. Everybody was hearing us just fine. So Kevin got his rewards there. Steve, incredible stuff. You wanted to show us a few things. Would you mind showing us a couple?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would love to see it.
This is just some really simple kind of things that you can do with pentatonic, and I'll play it out of E minor pentatonic.
Okay.
And a lot of people, if you just take the regular E minor scale, while you can play with your left hand, you can play. Can you see my guitar okay there?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
looks good.
Now, you can take your left hand. Now, I'm just playing with my second finger, all up on the 12th fret. I'm going to use the second finger on my right hand. Top half. So now you can go. Up to 6 back on one. Back on one. That would be really hard to play that fast if you were doing it with just your left hand, you know. So
I can't play it that fast if I was using your hands. I said I couldn't play it that fast if I was using your hands. So,
but then I started to just think about all the different things that you can just do with the pentatonic. Like, for instance, like I'll do the same thing. I'm going to use the same fingers, you know, my second finger, my left hand, all on the 12th fret, and then on my right hand it'll be the 15th, 15th, 14th, 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 and 15th. Now, what I can do is I can slide up. If this goes to slide up, when I get to the top of the neck, I'm going to go off to my left hand. Then once I get to the top of the neck, then I am on to the 15th.
wow.
And so it's kind of hard to get that, smooth without any noise. It takes a few times to get it perfectly, but
Yeah. Okay.
Now,
a few times.
You can do is you can use, just the, just your left hand and play the regular minor pentatonic E minor. Now you can go to the next position above that, which would be. Now I have this.
Oh, I know who's making my list this week.
Yeah.
But you can understand what I'm doing. See if you just
absolutely
scales, and I'm just showing you how to combine different positions together. You can also take that and you can play it going down in fifth intervals. Well, this would be a minor 6. So now I'm going to add the right hand into it. See, that sounds like something completely different. It no longer sounds like the pentatonic scale. You know, It sounds like I don't know what it sounds like.
Almost a Bach fugue. Almost, it's got that.
Right.
It's got a beautiful tone, beautiful sound. Great.
Yeah, fantastic stuff.
Wow.
Fantastic.
And you could do even just taking. Like there was this thing that Jeff Beck used to do where he used to be hitting the same note. I don't think he was doing it with 2 hands. So I'm hitting the then I'm bending my left hand, it's on a G note, back up to an A. So I'm going, that's a little different thing there, but yeah, and then just like if you play like E minor pentatonic. Copy the same pattern. That's just like this. It's like 15, 14 all. The right hand I'm going 17, 15, no, 19, 17, 16, and so forth. Obviously, you can see what I'm doing is I'm just moving it down chromatic. Both hands are just moving down one fret at the same time, but I'm keeping the same pattern going on that.
Yeah. Oh,
so
easy as pie.
A couple of ideas.
That's really
I got that.
impressive.
I got it.
Really,
You know, I could actually play it a little bit slower. So
You mean a lot slower for us.
Okay, never mind.
It was beautiful.
Oh, yeah, really is.
Because I could really sit here for hours and just do this. I'm going to start doing some online teaching too, so I can help people be a little bit more inventive with their solos. And I really like to keep it really melodic. I tell people, man, you got to tell a story. Listen to the stories that David Gilmour tells in his solos. They're simple, but they're just so damn interesting. And such a great sound, And when I hear that, when I hear guitar players now, I like guys that just slow it down and really play with a lot of feel. I was a big Gary Moore fan too.
Huge.
The way his vibrato, all his phrasing things. I just go, my God, this guy's just got it,
Yeah, and then just give you a little explosion, flurry of notes, and then go back and just kill it with a melody.
Yeah, right, exactly. And even his flurry of notes, they had a melodic sense to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't just playing triplets, going up the neck, sounding fast and cool, but he played some really melodic stuff. Because when I was teaching, I had a music school up in Seattle for 10 years, and I had this one guy that was a complete Gary Moore fan, so I figured out all these solos for him, and I went, wow, that's really intense what he's playing there, because it's got some jazz phrasing in there. It's not just blues. Yes. There's other elements in there, that are just really tasty. And that's one thing about jazz players that I really like. Even the fast stuff that you hear, they've thrown in all these chromatic notes. They got some diminished arpeggio stuff in there, and they've got all these different, things that make it sound really cool over the changes. But man, if you add distortion to that, and you use some of that phrasing, some of those, passing tones and everything, it sounds very, very unique, and very tasty. So
cool. Thank you for sharing all that, man. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your current gear. First, I wanted to ask, because as I saw the way your hammer-ons and stuff, what gauge strings are you using right now?
9 through 42.
Okay. Very good. Yeah. Very good.
Because there's a lot of stuff that I do with bending and the vibrato arm. One of the things I was going to show you guys earlier was, when you do this thing where this is also out of E minor pentatonic, but what I'm doing is I just have my left hand on the 12th fret again. Then I'm going up to the 19th fret. Now, as soon as I reach the pitch of E there, then I'm hitting an E here, and I have my vibrato arm up here. And as soon as I hit the B note, so as soon as I get to the G, Let the little bastards try to figure that one out. You have to see somebody doing that. Because
beautiful.
to figure it out by ear, it's just not going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
But it's like,
fantastic
like
stuff.
I like the strings. And because there's just a lot of bending and stuff that I do with the vibrato arm and, you know, with my both my right and left hands, actually. So,
Right.
You know, Steve, what separates you from the pack of everybody that kind of does the tapping is you're able to do it on every string at the same time, as opposed to just doing, you know, let's say the Edward kind of way of, you know, that style. You know, you just kind of took it, and you do it completely different. And it's just, you know, I just think it's an amazing technique that you show that, because you're bouncing on all the strings, as in the case with that song Liquid Eyes from Network 23.
Mm-hmm. But I always looked at it as like not just a thing to do for a trick or something that looks cool.
Well, it's a part of you.
With my right hand up there. I always thought of it as like, wow, look at all the melodic things I can do with this that sound so much more legato because the pick's not involved. And it just sounds real fluid like that. I actually thought Alan Holsworth was doing that, but then I find out that he's got, you know, this massive stretch with his left hand.
Yeah, that is
not fair.
But I was trying to figure out stuff with two hands, and I'm going, how can you play this stuff? So
with one hand,
yeah, definitely. So the guitar you're using, Lenny had asked this earlier. Is that
I've seen you go through the Charvels, the Jacksons, the Ibanez. Last was the Dean guitars, but now you have a new guitar that is a beautiful instrument, and I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I was with Dean, I wanted them to do my signature model, and I already had, you know, the schematics and everything pretty much done up for it. But they didn't want to start a signature guitar with me, which I don't know why, because, you know, these guitars that I had made from just myself, it was from this guy, Dale Roberts. And when we finally got it just right, it was the best guitar that I ever played. And everybody that I handed it to, you know, like backstage and stuff, and they played it, they just went, man, this thing's like built for speed. It's the easiest thing I've ever played. It's got a real thin body, kind of like the Ibanez S series.
Yeah.
And then it's got, you can kind of see back here how much, you know, it's beveled out right there.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, so you can get right up to the 24th fret really, really easy. It's got stainless steel frets on it, so they're never going to wear out. Right. And then I got the Floyd Rose Pro on it and EMG pickups. And, so the output on it is just, it's great. It's almost too much. As you can hear, a couple of times there was like other strings wanting to join in when I didn't want them to.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to put a chokehold on it a little bit.
Wow. Yeah, it was. It sounded beautiful, and you were saying the EMGs seemed to kind of like compress everything and keep everything nice and even. It makes a big difference, you know, for guys that tap. You know, you do get a little bit of a, you know, a difference in volume because, you know, you don't have that pick attack.
Yeah, because when you don't have the volume from the pick, then you've got to have the volume, you know, from, you know, the same amount of volume when you're doing the hammer-ons. And when I do hammer-ons, I'm not playing them just like little. I don't even use the word tapping because I'm not tapping.
No,
I'm hammering the shit out of it.
Right.
It's like, you know, my calluses on my right hand are more than the calluses on my left hand. Put it that way. And I always do it down in a downward motion. I work with gravity when I'm doing it because when you go. Now, what I'm doing there is I have that straight bent up, so I got to think, okay, now I have all this room since it's bent up, you know, to do that kind of stuff. Like, switching my hand around. That's called spider walk, I call it.
Right.
But I'm just bringing my fingers around so that but I've got all that room to pull off where the other string's not in the way. If I was to do the hand was pulling up, then you would hear the sound of the string above it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, fantastic stuff, man. So I don't want to get too far without forgetting to ask. So you're currently giving lessons also now, right?
Yeah.
You do private
I've
lessons.
pretty much taught so much. I've taught, literally thousands of students since 1979 when my book first came out and I was teaching back then. And then towards the end of the original Autograph, I started flying into different, when we were in between tours, I would be going out and teaching in different countries. I did 325 clinics in 20 countries. And I'd give them sections out of my books. Well, at that time, I wrote 2 more books called The Right Touch. The first one was called The Right Touch, and then The Right Touch Book 2, Right Touch Book 3. And I had an instructional video I did as well while I'm showing that technique. And so I was out promoting these, and I was working with St. Louis Music with great amplifiers and Ampeg and Alvarez, Yari guitars and all that. And so I was, and Jackson too, because I was with Jackson for years. But I really enjoyed the whole teaching thing because, it wasn't only just the material that I was showing them, which I give them a 34-page booklet. Everybody that attended got this 34-page booklet. But at the end of it were a list of books on there. And I spoke about the books, they're very inspirational, very spiritual books that really kind of get you into the right mind frame of Zen guitar, and how to really commit yourself to it and how to have the right mindset going into it. And that's to be creating music rather than looking at it as a competition, which I vehemently disagree with. It's not a sport. This is an art. Okay.
Yes.
And
It's art.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. So if somebody want to get a hold of you for a lesson, we do have the link to your Facebook. It'll be in the down below. You're tagged in the live stream. I'm sorry. It'll be up on YouTube afterwards on Musing Rants and Guitars. It'll be okay.
And they could also probably the best way is contact me through my email, which is Steven STEVEN L then another LYNCH. So it's Stephen L Lynch at Comcast COMCAST.net, not com but .net. And that's the best way to get a hold of me. And then that way, because I'm going to be setting up lessons probably next week, because I can't really go in and do the lessons where the place where I teach here in Florida. And I want to reach more people anyway. But with the pandemic situation going on right now, I think it'd be best if I just did it online because
absolutely.
I'm not anybody here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what have you been doing during the pandemic? This has been a big topic for us. We've talked to people from all sides. Last week we had guys from Michael Kelly Guitars, fantastic guys to talk to. They were talking about they sold a lot of online stuff because so many people are at home and bored to shit. So there's people learning to play guitar that haven't. What about you? What have you been doing?
I mean, and it's true. There's a lot of people thinking about what they can do during this time. Some people are really getting into shape, and changing their diet and their health habits and everything, and
right.
Picking up an instrument. And I think that's a great thing to do. I've been, like I said the other night, like I was going through all these songs and I was picking out the ones I definitely want to record. And I'm putting together a new home studio because the one I had before was completely outdated. It was old Pro Tools stuff. And so I'm putting it together with a guy named David Hess from Sweetwater.
Okay.
You've heard of Sweetwater, right?
Yes.
They're out of Indiana. It's just
I love their candy.
Yeah.
So much candy.
And so I'm doing that. I'm probably going to be putting that together and setting up the online lessons as well. And then I've become a Netflix addict.
Oh, haven't we all?
Yeah.
So I've watched, most all the episodes of Ozark already, and
love that show.
Great series. And
that one gives me agita, man. Every time it turns, and my stomach is like, no.
Yeah.
Right. Great stuff. Excellent. Lenny, you I know you have a bunch of stuff you wanted to ask Steve. Do you have anything else off the top of your head?
Lenny?
Yeah, I think we.
Lenny,
Lenny looks like he's locked up there. Lenny is locked up.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, we actually lost Lenny. I think we've had a little bit of a. Oh, he's coming back now. There you are, Len.
Okay.
Good.
Hi, Lenny.
Sideways.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
My side. Well done.
I think we have the same ISP. We're not too far away.
Okay.
I noticed that we our stream kind of went in and out a few times here. So hang in. We will not be gone until we say goodbye. All right.
Yeah.
Also,
stick with us.
Yeah. A quick thing.
Killed.
If you there will be little breaks in the live stream sometimes on YouTube, and tomorrow morning or tomorrow during the day, it all gets compressed, and all the blocks or anything that was not, that was cut up will be compressed all back in, so it'll be one nice long show. That's the nice thing at YouTube. And that's generally why we do it on YouTube, and this is our first time dual streaming.
We'll have a different link because I want to share this with
it'll be the same link actually.
But it'll all be compressed.
You can actually even watch it tonight on the same link. But tomorrow it'll be, I would say afternoon usually, because we've had a couple of issues with stream links where and they compress it, and usually by about but towards the end of the day tomorrow, everything is all up, and like any blanks that were in there, any stoppages, it's all compressed and are all good. So, Lenny, I know you had a lot for Steve. Was there anything else on your list of questions that you wanted to ask Steve before we go into our segments?
Well, this one, of course, I have to address the Van Halen Nation and ask you, is it true that Michael Anthony sang background vocals on Blondes in Black Cars, but wasn't allowed to be identified for doing so?
He sang not only on Blondes in Black Cars, he did a couple other ones too.
He did. Okay.
But he wasn't able to use his name because of the record label and all that.
Right.
But yeah, he did. Michael's a great background singer. He was my favorite guy. Michael used to walk off stage, after they got done, and we'd be backstage partying, and Michael would walk back there with his Jack Daniels bass still on, and his Jack Daniels in his hand, a fresh bottle of Jack in his hand. And he would uncork it, stick the cap to his forehead, and then he'd say, "Okay, boys," and he'd start tossing the bottle around. And he's just the greatest guy. And sometimes he even rode on our tour bus because, there was a lot of infighting. Everybody knows that with the Halen brothers and, with David and stuff. And so Michael didn't want any part of it. He just a mellow guy, and I've known him like for years, and they're just great people, down to earth people, and those are my favorite people in the music industry. People that don't act like rock stars because they're just normal people. They got lucky. Basically, they're talented, but they got lucky because there's a lot of talented people out there that don't get lucky. You have to be at the right place at the right time, and you have to be, approach it with a lot of perseverance.
Wow, awesome. All right, so Lenny, let's start our segments because we are now at. Oh, we've been on for an hour 15. We haven't even gotten to our segments yet. Yeah. So we'll start those.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the gear part of the show, and we're going to go around. We're going to ask everybody what piece of gear that you're fond of, or you can't stand, or you're dying to get. Yep. And, I got a piece this week, so I guess I'll start it off.
Yeah.
And it's a thing. Hold on a second. Blind as a bat. It's called the Engine by Drybell, the company Drybell.
Yeah.
And what it is, it reproduces a plexiglass Marshall in a box.
Okay.
And I was watching a tutorial on it today, and very interesting that you're able to get that classic sound out of a box with a boost on it and capabilities to hone in your frequency perfectly. So I was wondering if you guys have heard of that.
I saw that this week, And
I don't
I
know
was
if it's
like,
the same
I
thing,
have,
but they have this amplifier out now where you can control all the sounds from your phone. It's not that, right?
No, this is an actual pedal by a company called Dry. Yeah, called Dry Bell. It's called it's called the Engine.
Wow.
Oh no,
Very
I haven't
cool.
heard that. No,
Yeah.
I haven't
Awesome.
heard that one.
I think
Awesome.
it was actually our buddy Pete Thorne was
Yeah.
doing that thing.
Yeah.
Fucking, there's another guy I hate too.
yeah, screw it.
Oh God, I hate that guy so much. He's so good. Screw
You know,
him.
he makes me spend money. I hate
Oh
him.
my God. Every week, I'm gonna have to block him. Really, really.
And Lenny, I
So.
saw that. I was actually Googled it, and I was like, oh, I should probably get this.
It was really interesting because I was
Yeah.
just like, wait a minute.
That's what's gonna make me sound like Steve Lynch.
So freaking good.
Yes, that's what I need.
That's what I need to sound like Steve Lynch.
So, all right, Joey, you're
Okay.
next.
Yeah, you know, I'm big into the two notes, but I'm going to leave that off this week. This week, I got the Wampler Terraform a while back. I've had it for a while. It's been on my main board. I have two boards. And I've been experimenting with my board here, and my band has actually started practicing again. So we're finishing up touches on an album. So the effects and stuff are all in there, and I can use this Wampler Terraform. It's taking place of my MXR phasers. It's taking place of vibratos. It's ridiculous, and it's a small footprint, and the modulation in this thing is just ridiculous. So
is it a multi effects?
It's a multi effect, but only modulation. It's cool.
Oh,
it can,
I see. Okay.
Yeah. So here's the really cool part about it, and this blew my mind. And I'm not a big, I usually put everything through the front of the amp. Okay. But I do have some of my Marshalls have an effects loop, so it's nice to use that also.
Right.
This thing has two loops in it. All right. It has the effects that are supposed to go in front of the amp, and then it has another loop, and the effects that are supposed to go through the effects loop go through the effects loop. It's ridiculous. It's really cool.
So cool.
Yeah, yeah. You can also, obviously you can run it in stereo, but for guitarists, for live, we don't really use stereo. I mean, most of the time, front of house is mono, so it kind of gets lost, the stereo effects. So the idea of having, one for, in front of the preamp and then one through the effects loop is just, like, wow, it's like having two pedals in one. But this one's like having 18, and it's got 8 presets. 8 presets.
Very cool.
And the thing, I don't have it here, but this thing is seriously, it's the size of, like the King of Tone, that size. It's a little bit, it's almost, it's not huge. It's a nice size pedal. So that's my part.
Very cool.
Tommy, what about you?
Well, the only thing that it was a quiet week though, but I did finish up the recording, that you helped me with.
Yeah.
But I did end up, I don't know if I have a phase shifter. I went to the store, and this was a couple of years ago, and every once in a while you dig through your pedals and you see what's there because you don't remember what you got, and there's a whole bunch of different things and things you use normally.
Yeah.
So I found this, God, I don't even remember the guy's name. It's this phase shifter that's really, really flexible. Let me see. I have it here. It's Big Joe. So it's see if you can do this.
Wow.
And so I go into the store, and this was a few years ago.
Tommy, put that back up. Let me.
Yeah,
There you go.
Big Joe.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
They don't make this box anymore. They're over in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Okay.
They just have a plain case at this point. But anyway, so I go in there because I think that I need, a script phase 90, one of the reissues, and he's like, no, you need this, and I'm like, okay, you're just selling me something. So anyway, I'm like, all right, I'll buy it anyway. And it is so wonderfully flexible, and it's it's not a huge footprint. It's heavy.
Okay.
It is heavy. So, but anyway, so I use it, and it could just go between a 45, a 90, and 100 on the phase shifter thing. So it's really cool, and I did it. It can be subtle or it can be really heavy. So I like this. On my boards, I use the new Phase 95s because they're small and you can get them to just do the one trick that I needed to do. or the two tricks just by shifting it around. But this was good. So I really enjoyed using this again. It's pretty quiet, quiet. I have a mid 80s Phase 90, which is noisy as hell. But the 95s work great. But anyway, so this is my thing of the week. This is this Big Joe.
Wow. Awesome. All right. So, Steve, tell us about a piece of gear you love or hate this week.
I'm a couple different pieces. I really like. I just got the Head Rush. It's just the gig board because I don't really use the expression pedal that much, and I'm loving the tones on this thing. And I also got the Roland GR55 guitar synth, and that's my other guitars hooked up with the pickup and everything in it. And I love the fact that I can, play these piano parts, and I'm just playing it on guitar, and it sounds just like piano, and all these other just strange sounds. Because I look at it since I'm doing an album of just, whatever I feel like doing. I'm not really, like I said before, I'm not really going to put some things in even song format. Something might be just like, Lenny and I were talking earlier about the song Liquid Eyes off my Network 23 album, where it's just a minute and a half piece, So I'll probably have some stuff like that on there, just instrumental things and all that. And I just want to do like a collection of different ideas, and they're all going to sound completely different. I'm not going to just try to sound, like it's me on every song, even though you'll be able to tell, when the solos come about, because I do have that, a certain style. But I like the fact that I can get these different sounds off of it that can accompany me. And it makes, when I'm using these different sounds, what it does is it makes me create in a different way. Now, this is another thing that I try to explain to my students, and that's that when you have a plethora of all these different sounds, and you write from all the different ones, if you try to write with the same sound all the time, then your song's going to sound a lot the same. But if you venture off and try completely different sounds and effects and everything, wow, it really opens up your mind to creativity. It takes you into places that you never had even thought of going before. So I think that's really cool. One of the things I used to use Guitar Rig too, and I really love some of the sounds in that. And this whole kit that I'm doing with Sweetwater Music right now is that I'm putting together all, not only the mastering tools, but all the orchestral symphonic sounds and everything, because I want to use everything in there. I want there to be strings and all of it, and so but it has the Amplitude extended version. I'm going to get the heavy metal one, and there's also one that he's going to give me that are just Strat sounds, but they also come with just a lot of other guitars that you can layer on that just have a completely different sound to them. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun, to play. Of course, I'm going to go through a learning curve, and I'm going to be going, oh my God, this is overwhelming, because I've got this incredible variety of sounds now that I can use. So
all different textures and tones.
Wow. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
All right. So we're going to get to our last section. This is the fun. This is where we bring in the fun. All right. So this section is the fuck you section.
Okay.
Right? If you've not watched the show before, fuck you.
Am I going to be the appointee for these insults?
Yeah, well, you practiced on yourself.
Yeah. So the fuck you section, let me explain for anybody who's not seen the show. It actually is a compliment. All right. Me and Tommy started this. Tommy and I actually have switched bands. This is funny. We are great friends. We have become so close. I replaced him in an original band. He replaced me in a cover band. So tribute band. I'm sorry. Yes, in a tribute band. He made it instrumental on the switch from me doing what I was doing to covering his place, which is not easy. All right. Tommy is a fantastic guitar player. I will say he's a better guitar player than me.
Where are we going?
It's just different. But So we started this with the yeah right. I should shut the fuck up. Anyway, so we started with the I started with the conversation with them, and they're like, well, fuck this guy. Listen, he can play, he can sing, this and that. The other. So it became the greatest compliment ever is for us to say fuck you to a guy, right? So. So our big ones are, like fucking Ian Thornley because, he sings and he plays guitar and this and that and the other thing. So I'm going to bring up a picture of a guy that I'm going to say fuck you to. And I know.
Thank you very much.
Incredible.
Yeah. It was just the sound of the ring.
And I'm not paying for that either.
No, he's not. I'm not a kiss ass type of guy. But Steve, yeah, your playing is really good.
Thank you.
I'm humbled by your playing. I wanted to say, thanks for coming on, and you're good. I'm gonna throw it off to Tommy. Tommy's always got a good fuck you.
Okay.
Oh, you know what? I definitely second the thing to you, Steve. Man, that was, you're. I continue to take lessons, and I love people who love to teach and really love to explain and are so excited about doing, sharing and really helping someone develop. And you talking about, having your own style. Right, so we're taking this. So here's we're starting with the pentatonic, but we're going to go this way, and we're going to make it move back and forth, and you're going to, to hear it and to hear music and to be exposed to talking to your students and saying, you need to listen to, Pat Metheny, you need to listen to, Miles, you need to listen to Coltrane, you need to listen to, Lionel Mays, you need all these. Listen to the drummer, right? I mean, these people, it's amazing. So thank you. I also wanted to bring up, Ian Thornley has always been, my thorn. But a year ago, Brian Doherty died, who was his partner for a long time in music and his roommate in Berkeley, and did all the demos for the first record and did a whole bunch of the work with him. And I think he was really the inspiration for the last record, Around the Sun, which is a fantastic record. So, certainly not fuck you to them, but but yeah. So anyway, so that's
I just fell down. That wasn't my phone. That was me.
Are you in California? Was that an earthquake? So.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my story.
I'm right outside of Clearwater, Florida.
Wow. All right, so Lenny, let's have your fuck you for this week.
Well, in talking with Steve during the week, I was bouncing between Alan Holdsworth and David Gilmour.
Okay.
But you know what? I'm not one to jump on a bandwagon here, but I'm going to jump on one. My big FU is to Steve.
Makes sense.
I mean, just reconnecting with you after all these years and finding out that you're playing better than ever and watching you evolve as a musician and a guitar player. I mean, you went from the Autograph to the Network 23 and beyond, and it's just like I'm very excited as far as what you're going to do next. And just watching you play the things that I've been listening to is just insane. That, you just make it look so easy and fluid, and I appreciate that. So, thank you for everything and for coming on the show.
And fuck you.
But at the same time, F you too.
Fuck you. Yeah. All right, Steve. So we're going to put you on the spotlight. Go ahead. Who's your fuck you?
Burn that bridge.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I would have to say fuck you, Jeff Beck,
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Fuck yeah.
because of his evolution, and I'm just so amazed at, when I was listening to him from all the way back to, the Yardbirds into the Jeff Beck group, and then he went off into doing instrumental stuff with Jan Hammer, and through that whole thing, and then just keeping evolving and just constantly searching for different ways, to create different guitar sounds, and I've just watched him, metamorphosize from one thing to another, and they're all really good, and he just never disappoints, and he gets to play with everybody, because he has that, a style that fits in with so many different music genres. So, so I still just, am just enamored with the way that he plays to this day.
Wow. Yeah.
Agreed. You gave me chills, man, because he absolutely, his just evolving, and I remember some of those records, to me as a young guitar player, and were so seminal. They were just like, wow. You hear. I remember at a friend's house, I think the first thing I heard that I knew it was Jeff Beck was the Jeff Beck Jan Hammer live record, right? Where and just, you got to listen to this, and I'm young, just still trying to figure out stuff. I've heard the Beatles and heard the Stones and got all that, and then there was that, it just, and then from there, just all the rest of his records went from there, back and forth from that point.
Right.
Yeah.
And just you could
And
see,
he's one. A lot of people don't know. Like when you have all these other guitar players, like you have Eric Clapton and you have who else? Oh, Jimmy Page, and you have all these other guitar players that were actually, Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, and Jeff Beck were in the Yardbirds, obviously, but they look at him, and they're great guitar players in their own sense, but they look at Beck as he's the shit.
Yeah.
Jeff Beck.
They all
do admit it. Yeah. They go, okay, now it's Jeff's turn to take a solo, and they just go, ugh.
Right.
Yeah. Isn't that true? Wow.
It is true. It's phenomenal, and and still doing it to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, all right, we have been on for a long time. I don't want this interview to end, but I am going to put on one more video from Steve, and we'll say goodbye.